Warning. This podcast contains true stories that are not intended for those missing a sense of humor. Any resemblance to actual events or allegations are purely coincidental. Before listening, please relieve yourself, as possible adverse effects include spontaneous bladder leakage, mild hysteria, and sudden release of dopamine. Names have been changed to protect the innocent and guilty. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty, Karen.
Welcome to Coding Consultant Confessions with Tony Elhos, Stacy Buck, and Victoria Mole. Unfiltered, unedited, unapologetic. In this podcast, Tony, Stacy, and Victoria come together to share unique perspectives, engaging dialogue, entertaining commentary, and funny stories for those working in the healthcare industry. And now, here are your hosts, Tony, Stacy, and Victoria.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to a new episode of Coding Consultant Confessions. I'm joined by my amazing co-hosts, Victoria and Stacy. Today's episode is all about professional social media etiquette. We've all got a social media account these days. Social media is the modern day billboard. Your social media reflects your personal brand, whether you like it or not. It's a reflection of you, and it becomes a paper trail for eternity, essentially. So as social media has evolved over the years, it has become an integral part of our society. There's people that run their entire businesses on social media. Approximately 233 million Americans used social media in 2021 for over an hour per day. So we have something for everyone: Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, of course, YouTube, and who can keep up anymore? Every platform kind of has their own nuances and rules. So today's episode, we're going to talk specifically about some healthcare curated do's and don'ts for professional social media etiquette. So Stacy, I want to hear all about your do's and don'ts.
Oh gosh, there are so many do's and don'ts. I think one of the biggest issues, well, first let me say this. Professionally, if we're talking professional social media, which I think is what we want to focus on, we will talk about other things, but I spend most of my time over on LinkedIn because I consider that the professional, social media site. And when you are building your personal brand professionally, that is the best place to do it. With that said, I do have a presence on Facebook, but that's not really, I don't find that that's really where the target is. And I feel that Facebook content is very different from LinkedIn content. So those are just my general thoughts there. So I spend a lot of my time over on LinkedIn, and I can share several things that I think are absolute don'ts over on LinkedIn. I would say the number one thing that I think is a don't for LinkedIn, and I know that people are going to disagree with me on this, but it's posting your politics and political views on LinkedIn. I've seen a lot of people on LinkedIn comment and say, hey, keep your politics off LinkedIn. I'm here, to network professionally, and communicate about, professional issues. And then people push back and say, but the two are interrelated. You can't have one without the other. And this is my page and I'll do whatever I want. And that's true. If you want to post your personal politics on LinkedIn, knock yourself out. But when I look at it from the professional end and building that personal brand and putting forth the best version of yourself, whether it be promoting your own business to get clients or possibly looking for a job on LinkedIn, if that's why you're networking, I have to ask you if sharing your political views is the best way to go about being noticed in a positive way. Often there's a lot of negativity that comes with political posts, as we all know. And people get kind of ugly about it. And I also feel, why would you want to alienate half of the population by posting a view that is not held by the other half of the population. Now you may say, well, that's too bad. I can say what I want. And if they don't like it, that's okay. That's fine. Again, anybody can post what they want. And I'm, a big proponent of free speech and, say what you want, wherever you want. But the thing is, there are people who cannot put aside their personal biases. They cannot leave that at the door and look at you strictly from a professional perspective. So that's why I tell people I would not do that. If I were you, I do not recommend it, because why would you want to potentially lose out on a job opportunity because of some political post that you made that stirred the pot? Because whether we like it or not, people judge us based on our political views. Right or wrong, it's going to be there. So that is probably my biggest piece of advice. The other thing that I would say specific to LinkedIn would be when you make a connection with someone on LinkedIn, to spend some time building some type of relationship on LinkedIn, or bring value to LinkedIn, where, produce some type of content, share content that's valuable to your network. I spend a lot of time putting content on LinkedIn, coding advice, coding tips, things of that nature, trying to provide value while I'm there, and then building a relationship that way, and then potentially getting business from doing that. Now, what I don't like is when people just send a DM, and from their DM, they're immediately trying to sell me something, and I don't know who they are. I've never, had any interaction with them before other than being connected on LinkedIn. And then it really bothers me when they haven't bothered to read my profile and they're selling me something that has absolutely nothing to do with what I do. Or what happened to me this morning, this happens to me where I get coding questions that people DM me on LinkedIn, like they're looking for a free coding consultation. That's not appropriate if we don't have a relationship. But somebody DM'd me this morning and asked me a question about, I believe it was inpatient rehab coding, which is has nothing to do with what I do. Those of you who know me know that I do interventional radiology. And then I've had people say, hey, I'm going to do this presentation. People I don't know, can you review my PowerPoint before I do my presentation? No, I don't know you. We don't have a relationship, and I can't believe that you're asking me to do that. So really just know, I think, your boundaries and just establish a rapport with someone before you have an ask. I mean, if Victoria or Tony came to me and said, hey, Stacy, can you review something for me? Absolutely. We're going to do that. We're going to help each other, but, or anybody in our professional circle that we have a relationship with. But when it comes to somebody you've had no interaction with, I'm just amazed at the number of people who feel comfortable doing that. I mean, I know me personally, people who I've known, occasionally if I have a question and I'm stuck, I feel like I'm imposing upon them, emailing them a question, and I may do it once every few years. I'll actually reach out to someone and ask a question because I don't want to impose upon someone or make them feel like I'm using them for free advice. I mean, we're all here to help, but that should fall under the paid service there. And so the other thing I would want to say about social media, and this is not unique to LinkedIn, this is like any social media platform, is just be very careful about what you are posting in professional forums. Sometimes people get way too personal in professional forums. One of the busiest forums that I'm a member of on Facebook is the AAPC Facebook group over there. And there's always seems to be a lot of drama over in the AAPC Facebook group. Tony and Victoria, I don't know if you saw the latest the other day over the weekend about the post that had the fake Elon Musk tweet about buying Epic and taking over Epic, and it set someone off. Did you see that? And then it set the girl off. Did you
I've
guys
seen
see
that elsewhere. I didn't, but someone posted that on the forum.
So
on
yes,
the Facebook
Why
group.
would they be offended?
I don't know. It got posted in the forum. Okay. It's a joke. Everybody knows it's not real. Somebody took offense to it, went off on a rant about how it was unprofessional, unethical. It's not funny. It doesn't belong there. So then that got people stirred up and, engaging with her. Then she's going at people, telling them that their credentials should be revoked. And she just, this was like over probably close to 200 comments were like on this like one thread. Then she started another thread, her own, about being unprofessional. And the thing was, the person who was accusing everybody of being unprofessional was so argumentative and so unprofessional towards the other people. And I'm like, does she not see that she's doing exactly what she's accusing other people of doing on only like a much higher level, and nobody could figure out why she was offended. And she's referring to people sarcastically as like pumpkin and things like that in the comments. It was very demeaning. And of course I'm like reading this, so where's the popcorn? I'm like, I want to watch this dialogue because I was bored the other night, and so I found it like entertaining. So I go back and I click and see, and then eventually she deleted her whole post, so everything went with it. Or maybe she didn't delete it. Maybe an admin finally got in because everybody's like, hey, where's an admin? Well, it's the weekend. The admins aren't going to be there watching that stuff. So I just thought that was like a little over the top. And I see that happen a lot, particularly in the AAPC forum, where people start going at each other, attacking each other. You have employers that are part of that group. You have recruiters that are part of that group. And that is not putting your best foot forward. There are people who have been nasty in that forum over the years that I remember their names, and I can tell you I would never consider them for anything. And if anybody ever asked me about that person and mentioned their name, I would tell them how they represented themselves on social media. And then something funny that was on social media in the AAPC forum, I could not believe this. And again, this is a professional forum. Do we really want to share this? So this is a while back. Someone in the AAPC forum had posted, and I'm trying to remember exactly how this went down because it did happen a while ago, but she posted what she read in a medical record where the patient had said that it felt like, gosh, how did she say it? Like her vagina felt like, it was on fire, like jalapenos or something. No, it felt like she had jalapenos on her vagina. This is what the person shared from a medical record. Now that's, we share funny things from medical records online. It's what we do. It's the humor. Well, someone chimed in the APC group and basically said, oh, I know how that feels. One day I was making jalapeno poppers and I didn't get all of, whatever that is off her hands, the casein, or what, I don't know what it's called, the capsaicin. And she was taking care of herself later that night, and she couldn't figure out why her nether regions were on fire. And she had to call her sister to figure this out. And I'm like, wait, am I in the AAPC forum here? I'm like, I can't even believe this. Yeah, I was in the AAPC forum. I thought for a moment I had ventured off somewhere else. I maybe shouldn't have been. So that's out there. And so think about it. Even if you delete it, I can tell you this, things live on because people take screenshots of things. And then even though you think you've deleted it, somebody's got it somewhere. So that was, I think, the funniest thing I ever saw in the AAPC forum. Absolutely.
I think it's interesting, some of the like you said, like the drama that goes on, considering the fact that AAPC does have a code of ethics. And on part of the code of ethics, they do include social media. There is very clearly outlined, like you could fall into, I don't want to say like losing your CPC, but talked to perhaps or discussed or become aware by the ethics committee and be reviewed for some of the things that you would say online should they be particularly nasty on an AAPC forum. Now, that doesn't mean the AAPC is, policing all of your online activity, but if you're posting in an AAPC group or at an AAPC conference and saying mean things about the speaker or whatever, then that can fall into an ethics violation.
So do you think that personal story was a violation?
That is wild.
I think maybe a difference of comfort levels, we'll say, of what we project out there.
Definitely falls under TMI in like my opinion. Just that I will never forget that story like ever. I mean, I've seen a lot of crazy things, but I think that was probably the craziest one.
Can you imagine running into that person at like a conference or something?
Oh my God, it's the jalapeno lady.
Victoria, give us some do's and don'ts. What do you think?
Some do's and don'ts for social media. One of the things one of my biggest tips just in general about social media. So I'm someone who has a very large social media presence. And It's interesting the way this is perceived in various ways that people will say things like, oh, you make a lot of money just spending a little bit of time making videos and so forth. And there is a ton of work that goes behind it, with the learning how to communicate with the camera, learning how to get your lighting correct, the editing, making sure that like I become a keenly aware of when trains are going to go by in my neighborhood, when my neighbors are more likely to mow their lawns. I'm right across from a field, so there's times where I know sometimes they're like going to trim the tree for the whole day. Um, and I think one of the biggest advices that I have is, when people see me and they see that, oh, I'm on YouTube and LinkedIn and TikTok and Instagram and I do all of this, when you're starting out, it's really important to focus on one platform. Not saying you can't like set up all of your accounts on everything, but if you're trying to learn TikTok, you're trying to learn Instagram Reels, you're trying to learn YouTube, what happens after a while is you can't keep up with it all. And then you wind up not doing anything. And that is the biggest thing that I think people will burn out on, is they're trying to do everything. And really, if you just focus on learning one platform at a time, and you really have to learn the platform, like how to come up and search, how to do your thumbnails. If it's TikTok, what are the current trends? There's a lot of interesting things that you can do to fall within some of the trendy things, and then just like make it kind of healthcare related. Like you can find things that are a trending sound or a trending concept, and then think, like, oh, well, what's a way I could kind of twist this to go into like a healthcare medical coding type of thing. One of the things that I would say definitely don't do on social media, of course, it stands without even saying it, personal health information. We don't want to share patient names, MRNs, pictures of their bodies, etc. But also, we say a lot in our careers, kind of like to do the fake it till you make it, right? And that is something that we do. Like when you start looking into maybe doing presentations, you kind of fake that you're the best professional presenter until you kind of turn into that person. You fake it until you make it. You go out there, you project it until you actually develop into that. The area, though, where you don't want to fake it is when you start just making things up on social media. You don't want to go out there and say, fake reviews. You don't want to fake reviews, put up fake customer reviews. You don't want to say you have experience doing something that you don't actually have to do. It's not that hard to backtrack anymore and see things that people have posted online, or see their work histories, and realize that there are some gaps between what they are saying and what is actually holding up water from what's happening. So I think that's one of the tips. Like, you don't want to, there are platforms where you can do things like buy social media followers. I once came across someone who I think had just started a YouTube channel in kind of the billing coding field and was posting Facebook ads. When I went to their account, you could see they had this large amount of followers, like 1,000 people or something following them, but they've only had maybe a couple months worth of videos, and each video only had a few views on it. So that to me is not adding up, because if you're not getting views, how are people even subscribing to your channel? So it became very clear to me that this person had likely purchased followers for her YouTube channel. And at the end of the day, that's not going to do anything for you, because, you need that organic reach. You need to get the people that are coming in there because they're searching for something. They find you. They're like, oh, I found this solution to this coding problem I'm having. Hey, friends that are also having this same problem. And that's how you start really building the network, not just by grandstanding and pretending to be something that you aren't.
So true, Victoria. I can relate to so much of what you said. I think there's a lot of tools out there on the internet, like you said, with paying for followers. There's also it used to be a lot more common on LinkedIn, where you could be a part of these like LinkedIn pods, and then you join these pods, and then all of these people in this group would go and rush your posts, and then they would comment and like your content, and you would do the same for them. But again, that's kind of gaming the system. It's not building your following and then engaging your following and adding value and really creating that dialogue that I think is so important if you're going to be a content creator.
Yeah.
And it's very tempting at first. So I would never, long term feel terrible about someone who may have done it because they thought that was the thing to do when they were just starting out. But it's not how you're going to grow that audience, grow that prestige, grow that sustainability if that's something that you're looking to develop into part of your business for a long period of time.
I think what's lost on people, just to kind of comment on that, is this concept of authenticity. If you are going to have a social media presence, you have to be authentic. I think that most people are good at like spotting those inauthentic people and like those fakes like a mile away. And there are too many people who watch what other people are doing on social media. And then they say, hey, this person has had, like Victoria Mull, look at all the success that she has had, over there. I'm going to, do the same thing as Victoria. And so then they model themselves after Victoria and they're, producing some similar content to Victoria. But guess what? Victoria's people are going to know that that's Victoria in there. And it's like not you. So yeah, to try to copy somebody else, that is very unprofessional and unethical if you are copying somebody else's content, but it also doesn't help you because if you are just an authentic version of you and then start where you're at, that's the best thing you can do. I can remember years ago, someone said to me, we were talking about something in particular. And I said, I don't feel like I can help anybody, in this area. I'm not, done enough. I don't feel like I've arrived yet. And she said, Stacy, she said, you are one step ahead of the person behind you. So that is the person that you can help now. So you don't have to be this expert in this thing. It wasn't anything professionally related. It was, more personal, but that stuck with me that no matter what level you're at, the people behind you are the ones that you can help. You don't need to try to be someone else and act like you have experience and knowledge that you don't have to try to make it. Start where you're at, be authentic, and then take it from there.
You know who has done a phenomenal job lately? And Tony, I know you'll back me up on this, but Sarah Reagan. She was someone who started out, doing family practice coding and then got some extra certifications. Then she started doing speaking. Now she's speaking all the time. Now she's like, now I'm going to build up like a resume business. And she did it the right way. She's taking on one thing at a time. She's not opening up the doors and then going, okay, I'm doing resumes and coaching calls and I'm going to be a TikToker and I'm going to do consulting and I'm going to do billing services. And she took it one step at a time and is really building over things. And I think has the potential to really build into something amazing.
Yeah. I think so too, Victoria, you're right. Sarah Reagan is a really good example of that. And if you follow those steps, if you put in your time, if you hustle, if you engage, if you create content, it's going to pay off. It's going to pay dividends. When people see Victoria, they think, oh yeah, she just, overnight has 60,000+ YouTube followers. Am I even right? Is it like, I don't know, 100?
Yeah, it's like 61,000 something last I checked.
Yeah, nobody just like wakes up one day and has 60,000 YouTube followers. You didn't see the decade of work and time and hustle that she put into getting to that point. And the millions of videos that she had to do to feel confident and feel like, she can take something and make it fun and engaging. Like that is, it's a skill in and of itself. And it's not something that you can just pick up, right? Yeah. So many of my do's and don'ts that I had, you guys have already said. But I think what Stacy said about being authentic and genuine is really important because most people can spot the difference between authenticity and when someone's being disingenuous. I would also say, think before you post. Everything that you post can be used against you. Yeah. As an expert witness, I frequently have things that I've posted given to me in hearings and court proceedings, and I have to defend that. I have to have an explanation for that. And so think about that. Just be mindful of it. You obviously can't go back and fix what's already done, but you can, be mindful of that moving forward. If you're going to post, make sure that it's something that adds value to people. It's not just posting just to post. It's not spamming and ramming your product down someone's throat because nobody Nobody really wants to see that. I don't think that that's an effective sales strategy. And then give credit where credit is due. If Victoria or somebody else that's creating content out there does something amazing and you want to do your own iteration of that or your own version of that, that's totally fine. There's nobody that has a trademark on a topic, right? We all cover similar topics and have overlap, but giving credit where credit is due is absolutely critical. I remember one of the podcast episodes that Victoria did was on imposter syndrome. And what's so funny is that I had planned to do that same episode around the same time. And so she came out with hers. And I was like, gosh, okay, this is amazing. I really want to do this topic. And so before I even, started my episode, I said, hey, I got inspo from my good friend Victoria Mole over at Katempo Coding. And so giving credit where credit is due is really important. We all draw inspiration from other people's work and other people's content. And that person went through a lot of work and a lot of time to build out that content. So just, give credit where credit is due. As far as some don'ts, I would say, as the other lady said, don't misrepresent yourself. I remember in the early days of the pandemic, I remember this very clearly. Everybody was a self-proclaimed telehealth expert. I had actually been working in telehealth for 3 years prior to the pandemic. So I did understand and considered myself to be a telehealth subject matter expert. Now, the vast majority of the people that were saying that they were telehealth experts had never dealt with telehealth prior to the pandemic. So it's just those little things that you can easily see they're being embellished, fabricated, and you don't want to misrepresent yourself. There's no reason for that. Another thing is misrepresenting your credentials. I cannot tell you how many people I've seen that call themselves a CPC and they're really a CPCA, or they're going to sit for an exam, but they haven't sat for that exam yet. And they're already using the credentials before they've even gotten the credentials, which is a total misrepresentation of their expertise. So be mindful of that. Nobody is a subject matter expert in every single area of coding. It's impossible. Some people will tell you that they are, and there are some people out there that have a lot of expertise, that have had a lot of exposure to different areas. I happen to be one of those people. I've worked in hospital, I've worked on the physician side. I know both worlds. Most people do not have expertise in every single specialty in every single setting. And if they're telling you that, that's probably a red flag. Another don't would be airing your dirty laundry on social media. So when we talk about these forums, these professional association sponsored forums, these people have control over your credentials. They have control over so many things, your employers, the recruiters. So airing your dirty laundry can come back to bite you very bad. I've seen people get on these AAPC forums and just start popping off about membership fees and popping off about meetings and how they all need to be virtual. And oh my gosh, I remember as an officer, Victoria, you remember this too, when we had to do elections this past year for the AAPC, we had to conduct elections, and AAPC was mandatory or was adamant about those elections having to be done in person. No matter what, they had to be done in person. And so there was just like mass pandemonium of like harping on AAPC about this. And that's fine. Everybody has their own opinion. But the way that people went about it, the tone that they were using, the language that they were using could never be construed as positive or something that would be helpful to them down the line. So these forums and social media are not a place to try to embarrass your employer or embarrass your a professional association or make people look bad. Make sure that you're looking at your company social media policy. Some employers actually stipulate what you can and can't post on your social media. So just be mindful of that. When I hire someone to bring on board for alpha coding experts, I do my due diligence. I'm looking at social media, I'm looking at the forums, I'm looking to see if I've had to ban them from one of the groups that I moderate, because there's a lot of people that just have no other thing to do with their life besides constantly going into these groups and trying to spam their products. We have a Facebook group page, the Orlando AAPC chapter Facebook group, and it's a full-time job to moderate that group. I mean, there's people every single day we have to ban because they go in and just start posting. And so it's something, your reputation will travel very fast and people know who you are, and you don't want to be known for those things if you're constantly spamming these forums.
Yeah, because it is a very small world in billing and coding, especially even just online. I've had one forum that was, I'll just say, a general medical coding type of Facebook group, and saw someone post one day, "Hey, does anyone know of any job opportunities that are such and such and such and such and such and such?" And it was someone that I had worked with at my previous job and happened to know that she was still working there. So I clearly saw that she's likely looking for a new opportunity. Um, and I'm not the type of person that I would turn around and then go to her boss and say something about that, even though I have, her contact information and something. But you think that, oh, well, this is just this little Facebook group, I'm just going to post there, but you don't know who else is members of that. And yeah, things can get very interesting and very heated. Some of them, are totally benign. They're just little cardiology or something coding groups, and you see a post every now and then. But some of them do have some drama going on from time to time.
Who knew coding had so much drama in it? Like there's always like a lot of drama. So just to kind of like comment on Tony on what you were talking about, like, that person who comes across as like the jack of all trades. It's like, I have this saying, especially when it comes to social media, if you're not known for one thing, you're not known for anything. Like that's really, you start somewhere where that's like your area and you focus, because if you're trying to do everything and be everything, you're forgettable. You actually will not be remembered when you do that if you don't start and then build. Like you shared the example about Sarah. You start with something, you master that. There's nothing wrong with adding more skills, but when you come out of the gate, especially when you're newer, you don't have the work experience behind you. If you're trying to represent all of this experience, then clearly that's not going to benefit you as far as that's concerned. Now, we've been focusing on the professional forums, obviously, that are out there on social media, Facebook, and whatnot. But I think people also need to be careful about their personal Facebook pages. You probably want to make sure that you check your privacy settings and you have them locked down. I have my Facebook page almost as private as it can be for a personal Facebook page. The only way you can friend request me and see anything about me is if we have a mutual friend. That's it. If we don't have a mutual friend, then there's nothing there. Now, I will tell you this, every once in a while, Facebook does funky things. And even though your settings are private, somehow things will get changed to public. So you periodically need to check that. Now, with that said, I would tell people, really think about what you're posting on your personal social media pages. Again, you're free to post whatever you want. But if for some reason it is not private and things can be viewed publicly, and you have employers checking social media, it can be an issue. We've all heard the stories on the news about people losing their jobs or not getting jobs or not getting into colleges because of social media posts. Like this is an absolute real thing. So I think that people should use discretion. Now, I understand younger people not thinking, I feel it's very unfair for those people, like for college, for example, things in high school, and then they're not getting let into college, stuff like that. We were all kids and we did stupid stuff. Like I always joke with my friends because I was I graduated high school in 1992. And so I'm like in college and like partying in the 90s. I'm like, thank goodness we did not have camera phones in the 90s and social media in the 90s. Like there's no documentation of the stupid, crap that I did, when I was in my 20s. And I'm very thankful for that. I joke, I go, the best we had to capture our drunken stupidity, for example, was you guys, I don't know if you remember this or not, because you both are younger than me, but the disposable cameras, like we would take a disposable camera out with us for the night and take photos, and then we'd have to go get them developed. But that was it. And so you had the photos and the negatives, and you could destroy those, and nobody was ever the wiser if you didn't want them to get out.
Those were the days, right?
Oh, yes, where there was no record of anything. Woo!
Oh my gosh. I think Victoria and I had talked about this before, but you remember the MySpace and the blogging days, live journal. You guys totally would have been in my top 5 for sure.
Yeah, I was a live journaler. Oh my gosh, I was still in my teens. I think I was still in high school, and it was just I'm sure they're still out there somewhere, little blogs of me pissed off about English class or whatever.
Oh my goodness, that's so funny. Yeah, and then
let me just say this quickly. Something that I did many years ago on social media to kind of put up a guardrail for myself once I was on Facebook was I am actually Facebook friends with my pastors at church. So when you add that to your Facebook account, there are certain times I feel like, oh, I really want to say this and I want to go off about it, but I don't. And I did that because they're Facebook friends with a lot of people at church. And I'm like, you know what? That is a good boundary for me to set. If I know I'm connected to them, I know I'm not going to cross the line on social media if I kind of have that person watching me. And then just a lot of people from church. That is a thing. It's it's an accountability that I set for myself because we are all human and we all have those moments. And we could go off and we could say things and that are, not, I don't want to be known, for that at all, in a weak moment or something that I said that maybe and now everybody's like a friggin' snowflake and everybody's offended over everything. So you have to consider that as well, that people get offended so easily. Like in the Facebook forum, why did she get offended over the Elon Musk, fake tweet? I have no idea. That's still a big mystery. But that's something I did personally. So who are you connected with? Is there somebody that might be that person who might keep you from saying things and doing things on social media that maybe you shouldn't be doing that don't represent your best self?
Yeah, and I think we definitely have some different thought processes that people have on what is and is not maybe appropriate for your personal social media. We do have some that maybe, didn't grow up with social media, and they have a tendency to kind of think that almost like you're not allowed to have a personal life. Like you'll hear some of those opinions in these business meetings and business forums where they'll say, oh, well, these kids these days and their TikTok and they think this is so funny and they're so cool and they're always, taking pictures of themselves. And I think, it is a fine line to walk, but you can be professional and still have a personal life and still project your personality. But I think some people just, I don't know, if you post anything on Facebook other than, food or pictures of your kids, it's pearl clutching and so forth. Ooh, how dare you? I know there was a study that was very controversial that came out, it was maybe a year or two ago, where there was research and a publication published from doctors about the appropriateness of, and I think it was one particular medical specialty, of the female medical students posting bikini pictures of themselves on social media. I think that really is a line that has been crossed. We all have lives, we have bodies. It's okay if we post a picture of ourselves in a bikini on social media, regardless of if you work.
I'm just jealous. I don't have the bikini body to do that. If I had it, I'd be all over that, flaunting it. Let me tell you.
Right. Just because you are a doctor or a lawyer doesn't mean that you can't go on the beach and wear a bikini and have a picture of it.
Right. We're all humans. We have lives outside of work. We're not defined by our profession. And I think that's one of the cool things about platforms like TikTok is that you can see, these physicians and attorneys and people in these really high profile positions, and they're real people. You get that behind the scenes look. And I think that almost makes people feel closer to them, right? More relatable. Mm-hmm. So I totally agree with you. I think there's a personal persona, there's a professional persona. And the lines are not clear as far as how that works. But
Yeah.
society should not be quick to judge females, especially because men are not dealing with this
No.
at all, and hold them to a different standard.
Right.
Yeah, or it
Right.
seems like different professions also get held to different standards as well. Like we've all seen stories on the news about school teachers who are doing things like in their off time. Well, I'm kind of like, well, if they're not bringing any of this into the classroom and it has nothing to do with your children in the classroom, then why does it matter? Now, I can understand where it could be disruptive if, let's say, the teacher's stripping at night and the guys in the class, like, find out about it. Like, I get it. It could be a distraction, but I'm like, doesn't she have the right to do that when she's not on the clock? She's not stripping in the classroom.
Or
So,
if it's an extremism where she's doing something that would be misogynistic or racist or wearing the tinfoil hat or something like that outside of work.
it's putting it in perspective, like, what's accept, but it's like everybody is entitled to a personal life. So are you to say, well, if you want to engage in these things in your personal life, you can't be in this profession? I don't think that that's necessarily a fair thing. I think we have a little bit more wiggle room. I mean, if I wanted to go out and get on the pole at night, I could, and I don't think it would affect my career, but that ship has sailed. Like, that's not happening at this age. Things have like headed south, and that's just like over. In my 20s, I hired a male stripper for a friend of mine for her birthday. And when he came to the club to do his little act, he said to me, he goes, "Have you ever considered stripping?" I was like, he's like, "You're blonde, you have big boobs, and you can dance." And I'm like, "No, I'm good." I'm like, not really my thing. So anyway. Yeah. No. People will pay me not to take my clothes off at this stage of my life.
I don't know. How are your LinkedIn DMs looking these days? Because, that's one of the big problems we also have as women on LinkedIn is you'll have those gentlemen that seem to just send you those messages. Like any guy that basically sends me a message that says hi, I immediately ignore them and block them.
How many marriage proposals do we get in a week?
Okay, now see, this is where I feel like I must be doing something wrong, because this never happens to me on LinkedIn ever. Like, nobody's hitting on me on LinkedIn. Nobody's asking me out on a date on LinkedIn. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong that like nobody's trying this with me? I'm like, why? Like, I don't know. And part of me thinks LinkedIn should actually start a dating component of LinkedIn. I do. People say this is not a dating site, it's a professional site. Well, I know what I'm looking for somebody I would like to date. Those types of people are over on LinkedIn. Facebook will hook you up. They've got their little singles thing. LinkedIn, hello, I'm talking to you. I'll hook a girl up, because I ain't getting any action from anybody in my DMs. I'm just saying.
We'll send you some, Stacy. We've got enough to go around. Yeah, it's hi, beautiful. How are you today? Like, that's never a good sign. It's not only
I know why it probably doesn't happen, because I'll tell you the people that it usually is. When you get those connection requests who are physicians or guys in the military, so the physicians who have nothing to do with what you do, not even close, it's very vague. And then the military guys, those are fake profiles. They're catfishing. Yeah. I don't even accept those as connection requests. So I think I short circuit that from occurring. I don't need to be catfished from somebody over in Zimbabwe or something, or Nigeria. I'm good.
Yeah, I tend to screen my approvals too. I know some people say, "Oh, you should connect with everyone because you never know what they could bring to you and so forth." But if you're in Kansas doing wastewater management, why do I need to professionally connect with you?
Right. Yeah, doesn't make a lot of sense. What about all the spam we get? Victoria, how many spam messages do you get in a day?
Oh my gosh. I've noticed that lately I've been getting a lot of notifications from LinkedIn that aren't things that I feel like I should be getting notifications about. And one of them is the spam things, like people that are like, "Would you like to join my page? Would you like to join this and that?" I mean, I don't want to get on too much of a soapbox of it and be like, well, I started organically. I think a lot of people are misunderstand things when they're starting out. They don't always know the etiquette. And maybe the etiquette has changed over the years. I don't know. I started out dialing up BBSs back in the 90s, and we had what we called netiquette back then, and you didn't do certain things online. And even on different group platforms, you don't go into a Reddit group and start saying, hey, everyone, I started a podcast, come and check it out. I understand, because I know promoting is hard, especially when you're just starting out and it seems like an easy thing to do, right? Like, oh, well, I just started this awesome thing. I'm going to go out and tell everyone, I just made this course. I'm going to go tell everyone to buy it. But, the better thing to do, I think, is really promote why you need it. Like, really research into marketing. If you can describe someone's problem better than they can, they're going to assume that you already have the solution to it. They're going to assume that you already know what to do, that you're more of an expert than them, and they're going to flock to you. I'm seeing more and more even people that are and I don't even would consider it spam at this point, but they're developing programs or courses or some sort of offering. And it's just like, here, I have this thing. You can go here to buy it, but without telling you all of the details that you would need to know in order to purchase something that's going to cost you $300. Like, am I going to get CEUs for this? How long is it? How long am I going to have access? Who is this targeted for? Is this a beginner level thing? Is this an intermediate level thing? Like, not giving much of a description of what the product is that you're presenting. And yeah, it gets hard now. More social media platforms are trying to move towards sales. We've seen this shift in Instagram. So Instagram, when it started out, was originally for photos. You got the square photos, and that's what you posted on Instagram, and you could caption it. And then they started stories. You could do these little 15-second videos. Well, then TikTok came into play. And, Instagram wanted to compete with TikTok. So they said, oh, we're going to go do Reels. And we're not really just a photo platform anymore. We're really like a media platform. We do a lot of videos too. So you can post these Instagram Reels. The latest is that Instagram might move more towards a shopping sort of platform where they're mostly posting videos and photos, but promoting the ones that are going to lead to sales through Instagram. And I think we've seen that a little bit even with Pinterest, that your pin boards used to just be cute little pictures and recipes that you pinned. And now you're seeing a lot more advertisements, and you're seeing a lot more sales going through Pinterest. So it seems like we are seeing a lot of sell on social media these days. And it'll be interesting to see if that's something that's going to continue and what the trends are going to be for that.
Yeah, I think what people miss when they're out, I'm selling, buy my thing. Like Victoria, you say, people are like, buy my thing, buy my thing, buy my thing. People need to show their knowledge and expertise and create value and add value before they ask somebody to buy their thing. Right. And with social media, there's no reason why you cannot go out there and give free advice and give free education. That's what your YouTube channel is all about. You are not asking for, these people to pay for that information. It's out there for free. And that's how you're establishing yourself. And then it's like, hey, by the way, guys, I have this over here if you want to purchase it. I do the same thing. I'm over on LinkedIn. I'm sharing the free coding advice, coding tips, different things that I have going on. And then you're establishing yourself, but you're giving value. You're giving people something before you even ask them to buy from you. So do I advertise what I have on LinkedIn? Absolutely. Are most of my posts, maybe one post a week, will be, hey, here's my thing if you're interested. The other stuff is just educating you. It's providing you good content, and that's it. And then I don't think there's anything wrong with messaging people when you make connections. But know your audience, know the person you're connecting with. If somebody connects with me and then they're immediately selling me something I have no use for, you haven't even taken the time to read my profile. If there's something there, a possible synergy, introduce yourself, start a dialogue. I don't have a problem with that. I'll do that myself. I'll say, hey, great to connect with you. Thank you for connecting. This is what I do. But if you need anything, let me know. Like, I also have an offer. Like, if there's anything I can do for you, please let me know. It isn't just like, hey, here's my thing. Thank you. It's finding that balance.
Yeah, here's my Patreon link. Please join. Please join. There's a lot of that going on. So as we wrap up, we're each going to share our top tip on professional social media etiquette. So Stacy, what's your top tip?
I don't know that I have really anything to add. I mean, we covered like so much there. I would just say my biggest tip would be, when you're in professional forums, be extremely careful about how you're communicating and what you are saying. You always want to put your best foot forward. I believe people can speak up and share their thoughts and opinions on things. Obviously APC members, I think they should have a voice about things that they maybe don't like, they would like to see changed. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that, but you have to think about how you're coming across when you're making, those posts. It should come from a place of constructive criticism, maybe offering solutions and not just hammering everything that's wrong and then complaining. And then have respectful dialogue with your colleagues. I'm always shocked at how people will start attacking each other and insulting each other in professional forums, because again, there are people watching and you don't know who's watching. I mean, do we know all the people that are in those forums? No, we absolutely do not. And again, people take screenshots, delete all you want. If somebody sees something juicy, guess what? They might have a copy of it somewhere. So that's always something to keep in mind.
No, I totally agree. And then my top tip would be, I think if you're someone who wants to utilize social media a lot, if you want to make that part of your brand or part of how you build yourself or your image, you can have personality, you can put yourself out there. Just be aware of where your lines are. Is your line going to be a little bit more conservative than others? And just don't cross any lines where we, again, are going into ethics violations, where we're violating HIPAA. Those extremes we don't want to get into. I've as I've mulled things over, realized that there are people that have different audiences than I do, and they may project themselves with a different personality type than I do. And that's fine. I'm not part of their target audience if they want to have a different sort of way of projecting themselves or different type of persona that I do. And that's fine. Not everything has to be to your taste. But it still has to fall within those lines of extremism where we don't want to cross the lines of the privacy violations, the making fun of patient cases, identifying patients, just like Stacy said, just attacking other people. Keep within those confines.
Don't be a troll, right?
Right.
Yeah, I totally agree. I would say my top tip is leverage social media to build relationships. Social media has changed the game, right? Before, you would have to go to a conference or an event to meet people in person. Now you can connect with people online. You never have to meet that person physically to build a relationship with them. So it's a great tool. And if you use it in the right way, you can be very, very successful. Social media allows you to build these relationships at scale. We've all talked about this at some point in the episode today, but don't just reach out to people and ask for stuff. Build a relationship, start a dialogue, engage them, but don't ask for things right off the bat, because that's not going to work. I get messages every single day where people say, help me find a job. You have to help me get a coding position. I can't get a job anywhere. Tony, can you please help me? That sense of entitlement rubs people the wrong way. It certainly rubs me the wrong way. If I don't know you, if I've never spoken to you, if you've never, reached out to me, what would make you think that you could just reach out to me and ask for something right off the bat? Like, Victoria, I think you've said this before, but like, you don't just reach out to Gary Vee and say like, hey, I like your work. Can you mentor me? Like,
Right.
it doesn't work that way. You have to build a relationship with someone, and it has to be a mutually beneficial relationship, right? So with mentor mentee dynamics, if you want somebody to mentor you, the way to get them to mentor you is not to ask them, hey, be my mentor. Can you be my mentor? That's not the way. There is a right way to go about it. But give me is not the right approach. So it's all in the approach. Build relationships, and you can do it at scale. If you build those relationships through social media, that's going to be the key to getting your next job, your promotion, getting invited to speak at events, launching your business, building your business. All three of us are female entrepreneurs, and we have leveraged social media to build our businesses and have become very successful at it. So we're living proof that you can do it in the right way if you have, obviously, the skills and the time and the resources, and maintain professional social media etiquette.
Yeah,
So,
and that's how the three of us all came together, through social media. That's like the beauty of social media. And people don't see the value in LinkedIn like yet. Like, I wasn't on LinkedIn heavily until about 2.5 years ago. And that is the top. I'm so happy that I got over there and got active, and I'm on LinkedIn, because I have gotten more business on LinkedIn. Like, my business has grown because of my presence on LinkedIn. And I wasn't necessarily going in with that goal. I was just trying something different. And I was amazed. And I have made a lot of valuable connections. And I've also made a lot of great friends. People that I started out with a dialogue. Tony, you and I started out, it was a DM. I had emailed you something about, your podcast. And you were gracious enough to respond to me. I feel so honored and privileged, since you apparently ignore a lot of people. And you responded. But no, we all connected that way. So LinkedIn brought us together, not just professionally, but then also you get, sometimes to make really great friends at the same time. It's just, I love the time that we're in because of technology. We all wouldn't be able to do, what we're doing and be as successful as we are without the technology that we have at our fingertips.
Stacey, you're right. We all met on LinkedIn. That is so insane.
Yeah.
Victoria, remember?
I do remember. And it was the funniest thing, because it wasn't even like we were fairly new at the time, both of us, in our careers, at least in our independent careers or independent developments. I was still working, I think, but I was building my social media presence. And I posted something on LinkedIn about how I was applying for HealthCon, and I went to go pull my bio out of Healthcare Business Monthly. And for whatever reason, on the spot where they posted it on the website, it pulled, I think, my old Twitter profile picture, which was me wearing Mickey Mouse ears at Disney World when I was there for conference. So there's, hey, my bio, Victoria Mole is CPC, and there I am with my Mickey Mouse ears. And I was posting about how funny that was on LinkedIn. Someone that Tony was connected with, I think, commented on it. And then Tony went, oh, I have some questions for you about blah, blah, blah. And we started kind of engaging through that. So that was the story of how Tony and I got connected.
Yeah, comments are an easy way to engage. If you want to start to build a relationship with somebody, like, I'm a content creator, Victoria, you're a content creator. Do you want to know how to start creating a relationship with content creators and other people? When they post content, comment on their content. Do that. Share their content. Help promote them and engage with what they're sharing. And then guess what? When they see your name, hey, this person comments on my post. They're helping my engagement. They're sharing my information. Your name is going to jump up, to the top of the list. And you're probably going to get a response from me if I've noticed, that you're doing that. But people who never engage and never add any value back, that's a simple way to add value back to your content creator, is just comment, and then share the content. That's the biggest compliment that you can give your content creators.
Yeah, I totally agree. Stacey, I think engaging people's content is the best way to support them. It's the best way. And by you engaging their content, they show up on other people's feeds that they may not have been able to reach. Just a side note, for the folks that have LinkedIn Premium, we pay that premium to be able to see who's looking at our profile and to be able to see all of these extra added features. Just saying. So thank you for tuning in to our Coding Consultant Confessions podcast series. We hope you enjoyed today's episode on professional social media etiquette. Don't forget to drop us a 5-star rating and review on your favorite podcast platform, and tune in for our next confession.
Thank you for tuning in to Coding Consultant Confessions with Tony Elholms, Stacy Buck, and Victoria Mole. Unfiltered, unedited, unapologetic. Connect with the Coding Consultant Confessions podcast on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Simply search for Coding Consultant Confessions on any of these platforms to connect and engage with Tony, Stacy, and Victoria.